Hi guys, welcome to the Mindful Homeschooler. I am so happy you're here to join me today. On this channel, I am documenting my journey homeschooling my 6th grade daughter and my son who's in pre-K. All right guys, this video is my homeschool update for the month of September for my pre-K son. This is part 2. If you watched my update video for my daughter, you will know it was very, very lengthy and there was no way I could have combined both of them. So I just thought splitting it up would make it easier. All right. As I mentioned in the previous video, we are taking a 2-week break the first 2 weeks of October. We'll be back Monday, October 13th. My sister is visiting from Switzerland with my 2 nephews, so really looking forward to that break. If I hadn't already had a 2-week break scheduled, I would have actually taken a break. The last week of September, I was burnt out. I've realized that we really are year-round homeschoolers. We do take off May and 2 weeks here and there throughout the year, but honestly, I need to be more cognizant of when I am nearing burnout, when my kids are. So really looking forward to this break, but we had a very successful second month of homeschooling. Okay, for my son, I do a lot of different curriculums. I have curriculum pick videos, which I'll link the playlist below. I've also recently made a video on how I plan a week of homeschool for my son using all of these curriculums if you're interested. First, I want to talk about Gentle Lessons by A Gentle Feast. This is our letter and sounds curriculum, level 0. This has been amazing, continues to be amazing. We just finished letter J. This has a lot of phonetical awareness activities in it. And my son, who is almost 5, he'll be 5 at the end of October, his awareness is growing and growing. These activities are helping strengthen him for sure. I think that once we're done with this, I will definitely be going back around again and redoing these phonetical awareness activities. They do build on each other, but most of them can be used on repeat, and they're so fun. They're active and they include movement and games. So they're really fantastic. He's never bored and they're always different. And the recent thing that we did this week was we took all of the flashcards that we've done. She has great flashcards. Every single one of them has something like, let me pick one. This is fighting fox, and I'm telling you, doing the hand motion while saying the sound is what really helped my son. Now, I was concerned that maybe my son was just memorizing the little rhymes and didn't actually know the sound. So this week in J, she had you say a bunch of words that either started with A through J, and I laid these on the floor, and then I said the word, and he had to jump on the beginning sound. It took him a little bit to figure it out, but once he did, he went through all of the words, and let me show you how many there were. So we went through all of these words, and I was able to say them. And I did break it down for him. I would say the word and then I would break it down with sounds, and I would ask him to jump on whichever one of these flashcards represented the first sound. And he got it. And it was such a moment, you guys. It was such a moment because sometimes I just feel like he's just not there. And I'm not worried about him being on a certain level. It's just sometimes a little alarming when you're not seeing progress. There's some points where he'll make a lot of progress and then some points he stalls. I just think that's part of the natural developmental process, but it was so amazing to see that he was learning the sounds along with the rhymes here. So really, really enjoying this. Okay, so the next one that I said I wasn't going to be doing anymore, Blossom and Root, earlier is level 1. And that did not last very long. You guys, I love this program so much. It brings in nature and science, things that I don't have in the other curriculum, Treehouse Story School that I'll show you. That's wonderful as well. But honestly, my son does so well with structured learning. And a lot of this is play. It doesn't even really feel like school, but it's laid out for me in a way that throughout the day, he has so many different things that he can do, and it does not take that much time. Maybe a half an hour a day, sometimes 45 minutes mixed all throughout the day. And I find that having brought him in formally to homeschool has filled his cup so much that he doesn't need me all the time like he used to. I feel like he's getting a lot out of it. And then when it's time for him to break and me to work with my daughter, he's very happy to go play on his own outside, building Legos. So it's really actually helped the flow of our homeschool. And having multiple curriculums helps because I don't use everything out of every curriculum. I used to, and now I'm just picking and choosing what works for our family. So bringing this in again is just, I love it. I love it so much. Like for example, this week I wrote you a note. I read this a couple times, and then for the kindness part of the curriculum, he was to write a note to someone. So he picked his cousins that are coming, my nephews, and I wrote it for him, and then he wrote it underneath, and he's leaving it for them on their bed. So sweet. I just love it so much. Okay, before I get into Treehouse Story School, Preschool, because that's going to be a minute, I want to talk to you about some few things that we've been doing that my son's been obsessed with this month. Connect the dots. You guys, he had his 1 to 5 down pat. It was 6 to 10 that he was struggling with, and he's got it. And I really think a huge part of that is this connect the dots. He started with 1 to 8 and he migrated into 1 to 10. But this, I have to say, has really solidified 1 to 10 and what they look like visually. Awesome. Definitely recommend that. The other thing that we've been bringing in sometimes is preschool beginner math. This is by Jada Learning Resources. This is very much a workbook style book, but sometimes my son wants this. He really does like workbooks. And sometimes he's in the mood for it. And he's been in the mood for it and asking lately. He'll do maybe 5 or 6 pages in a day, and then we won't do it for like a week. So he really likes it. This has also been helping him solidify his shape, solidify his numbers. They're giving you pictures and saying, how many is it? And you have to, mark 2 or 4 or 5 or whatever it is. And that's really helping too. So this is definitely something I would recommend. Okay, guys, Treehouse Story School Preschool. I love this. She just came out with it. I've talked about it a lot. I cannot recommend this enough. So much fun. Again, I don't do everything, but I do a lot of what's in here. She has so many different activities for life skills, for math, for story connection. She has arts, she has crafts, she has a recipe. So much is in here. She has hand rhymes that her daughter has done on YouTube. She has a Spotify playlist that matches so well with everything. Very well thought out, very well done. So I'm going to give you an example of 2 weeks we did in September because they were just my favorite. Before we do that, she gives you letters and numbers for you to print out and laminate. And just this week, we've been working through using these numbers, and we played a game where I laid these all out on the floor, and then we played music and I would freeze it and say a number and he'd have to run to it. We just did that over and over and he loved it. And then later in the week, I took these and I mixed them up. These are 0 through 10. And I laid them down, and then he had to put them in order. And after the first time, he could do it over and over again. So she has a really great way of incorporating math and all sorts of skills. Like you're working on tying your shoe and wiping the windows. So many just simple things that I just wouldn't think of that she incorporates in such a fun way. Also, let's talk about the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we did The Tortoise and the Hare. Great book. Loved it. We really went far on this. And some of the books that she recommended were I'm a Hare, So There. Guess How Much I Love You, so sweet. The Foolish Tortoise by Eric Carle. Everything he does is wonderful. There were a few other books that I couldn't get from the library, but I did find some additional ones. I Am Hattie the Hare. This was such a great book because I really spent this week teaching him the difference between a hare and a rabbit, and a tortoise and a turtle. We got a lot of good science out of it. I also found another rendition of Hare and the Tortoise that I really liked, and after we had read this original one several times, I got this bigger one from the library, so it really helped like solidify the concepts for him. We made homemade lemonade that week. That was super fun. Really loved it. So then the next week was all about frog and toad ice cream. This was an ice cream week. We just finished it up. My kids loved it. The books that she recommended for this were obviously the ice cream frog and toad story in here. You had Curious George and the Ice Cream Surprise. You had Should I Share My Ice Cream, which my son is obsessed with Elephant and Piggy, so this was perfect. We had Ice Cream Summer, that was just a really fun tie-in. And then one I got on my own is I got Frogs and Toads, because in here you have Frog and Toad and they're different. So I took this opportunity. This was a great one to teach the different kinds. What's the difference between them? Frogs are slimy and wet. Toads are scaly and dry. And we just went through all the different kinds. He loved it. We went through this so many times. So I really like how you can bring science into here. And there's just so many different ways to make this cross so many different types of studies. Okay, so for this week, we made our own ice cream sandwiches out of graham crackers and ice cream. I'll post some pictures of that. My son loved it. This is where we did the fun math stuff. We also made this puffy ice cream paint out of shaving cream and glue, and then painted ice cream cones out of it. So much fun. I just absolutely love it. She also had some recipes in here that we didn't do. I had planned on doing this banana and ice cream. My kids told me that they thought that that would be disgusting, so they didn't want to do it. Luckily, she also had suggested using graham crackers and having them make their own ice cream sandwiches by scooping out the ice cream. So that was great. Really fun. And the hand rhyme this week had to do with ice cream. All the songs had to do with ice cream. And let me show you. The tortoise and hare, you had chocolate pecan turtles that you could have made. We didn't do this only because my husband and my daughter are allergic to pecans. That was a really fun thing that you could have done as well. So she just has so much fun stuff in here. It's 32 weeks. It's a perfect amount. I really hope she does kindergarten. She had mentioned she was, and I would love it. Okay, guys, so let's talk about mental health real quickly. We've been working our way through a little spot series. We've now done anxiety. Well, first we did the introduction to them, and we did anxiety. We've done sadness and anger. I had to return those two to the library. These are going well. Now we're going to go into a spot of confidence, a spot of kindness, a spot of love. So we'll work our way through it. These have techniques in each of these to help your kids. And my son still uses the one for anxiety where he's touching his palm. He always talks about his emotions and colors. It helps him identify it. I cannot recommend these books enough, you guys. Okay, now I want to talk about some books that we read. There's been so many good ones. And if you've been around, you may know that when my son goes to the library, he wants to pick out chapter books and he wants to read them. He sees his sister reading chapter books like it's going out of style, and I totally understand that. So I've been trying to find books that look like chapter books that we can still read. We've been working through the Elephants and Piggy book. My friend Michelle on Instagram, I'm going to put her handle here. She introduced me to these. She's great. So we've been going through as many of these books as we can find from the library. He loves them. Super fun. I do fun voices, and he just loves it. Another series that looks like a chapter book that satisfies him is this Doggo and Pupper by Catherine Applegate. You guys have been around, you know we love Catherine Applegate. These are fun stories. He really likes them, and he feels like they're chapter books. Some of them have a little more words than others, but they are longer stories. They're broken into chapters, but it doesn't always have a ton of writing. But for him, he feels like he's getting chapter books. Another series that we hopped into is Henry and Mudge, and this one was And Mrs. Hopper's House. This one also is a chapter book. He really did enjoy this. This has a lot of pictures still, so I wouldn't say it's like full-on chapter books, but he feels like it is, and he's really been enjoying these. Okay, now I have to tell you, I have found some of my absolute favorite read-alouds ever over these last few months. And I just need to tell you about them. This book, Explorers of the Wild, was a recommendation from the Dog Week for Treehouse Story School. I love this book so much. It was so sweet and so awesome. Inch by Inch, this was a recommendation from Gentle Feast. Absolutely so cool. We learned what an inch was. He would find the caterpillar moving every single page. Like he really was catching on to the fact that this caterpillar was prey. It was just such a good learning book. Loved it. Another book that I found was The Boy Who Cried Bigfoot. This was great to introduce that story. Instead of crying wolf, it was crying Bigfoot to kind of teach him the importance of being honest, but this is done in such a fun way. Love this book. We read it so many times. Then two books I just found at the library is this book called Life by Cynthia Rylant. You guys, this book is so beautiful, and it just talks about how life starts out small, and it kind of grows and how life adapts. It has amazing graphics. It's such a great story. Talks about how life is not always easy, and it just goes through the life of several different animals and things throughout the world. Love this book so much. And then last but not least, The Wild by Yuval Zalmer. This book is beautiful, and it talks about how much of the earth we used to use versus how much we do now. And they call Earth the Wild. And it's just kind of a way to talk about respecting the earth and how everybody's welcome, and how we can take from the earth, but that we also need to give back to the earth. So this is a really good way to introduce how to treat the earth, the reasons for not over-consuming. It was just such a great book, done so well. Definitely one of my top favorite books that he's ever read. All right, guys, so that was it for the month. He also started an outdoor school. He technically was supposed to be 5 for this class, but because he was so close, the teacher made an exception, and he's doing well. Literally, he plays so hard for 3 hours, and my son, I feel like, doesn't tire out. No matter how long of walks we go on, no matter how long of bike rides, but I pick him up from outdoor school, and the second we get home, he's sleeping for hours. So I really do think it's been such a great addition, and he loves it. All right, guys, that's it. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. If not, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.